gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to a little show we call The Gridiron. Ladies and gentlemen, The Gridiron is a special show. It is the Sideline Junkies 2024 version of the College Football 25 season. Yes, we are talking about a video game, and we're breaking it down as if it's the real thing. And if you want parts of this league, if you are bold enough, if you are brave enough, if you're one of the few, the proud, and the brave, reach out to Sideline Junkies 24/7. Teams are available. You can jump in at any point. You have to wait till the start of the season. You can jump in mid-season. It doesn't matter. But if you want that smoke, light your cigars and get ready, because this is another episode of The Gridiron. And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start off with a little thing we call the kickoff. All right, so in the kickoff, we're going to talk about the weeks past, because in this league, like I tell everybody, they operate in a 48-hour cycle. So we're going through games, sometimes 3-4 games in a week. And this past week, we went week 10, week 11, week 12, and we're currently in the midst of week 13. And before I go any further, I'm sorry, I got so hyped off the intro, I didn't introduce myself. I am the Midnight Rider. This is The Gridiron. It's a Sideline Junkies Podcast Network production. It is in conjunction with Clear Production Sports. And again, I'm the Midnight Rider, and you are now in the midst of the kickoff, which I should have said all this stuff before, but it's okay. I got too hyped. I fell in love with the opening. It's the best opening in sports entertainment today. The Gridiron. So now we're in the kickoff. So KG, pull me up week 10. Because we had a big show last week. We talked about the big Michigan versus Oregon. And as you see, Michigan came out on top. And Michigan did what they do. And they broke his heart. Yes, they went. Mr. Edwards went for 247, 3 touchdowns. Dylan Gabriel, he went for 221, but Mr. Gabriel threw 5 interceptions. And that is the way Oregon lost this ball game. Oregon was in it early, but Michigan and that dominant run game, they just, for lack of a better term, pounded out a victory. Also last week, we had Duke and Miami. The user was Miami. They won 21-16. And then we had our boy, Mr. Rudder, who we talked to before the game. The TCU Horned Frogs jumped out on Baylor, won 14-6. And that was pretty much all the user games for that week. So in recap, just a week 10, what I'm starting to see is like teams are starting to evolve. And when it comes to this game of football or sports, evolution is a beautiful thing. And what we're seeing right now is teams are starting to get an identity. So I'm almost curious to see what in season 2 of this, because everybody will start having their identity set and they're going to start playing a different style of football. And it's going to be amazing when you watch this. And when we talk about the team Oregon struggled in this game against Michigan, but then I think they went into week 11. And when week 11 popped up, they played a little team called the Maryland Terrapins. And this is the boss man's team. And the Maryland Terps, while early, and Maryland had this game in their hands for 3 quarters. But like the old thing when they talked about LeBron, and they asked him if he had change for $1, and he only had 75 cents. Same thing with Maryland. Maryland only had 75 cents. They only had 3 quarters in them. And Oregon pulled away late, beat them 24-14. But it was one of the best games of the week. Another classic, another click-clack special was the Colorado versus Texas Tech game. Colorado came out 14-10 over Texas Tech. But the Colorado Buffaloes became a team from the old days. They went back to the Darren Hagans, to the Eric Bieniemy days. They ran the ball, and they set themselves up with an identity, and they forced the football down these teams' throats. Also, another game, user game, was the Texas against UF, and Texas just came out. Another big game from Quinn Ewers, which if you know the Midnight Rider, you know I'm the biggest Quinn Ewers fan in the world, and they dominated UF. But the game of the week in this one, Even though we had the Maryland Oregon game, but one of the best games to watch, if you watched on the YouTube channel, was the Alabama LSU game. I just thought Alabama was going to let this slide through their fingers, but Alabama showed that they roll with the tide, and the tide and the elephants went on the stampede. They ran the ball down their throats, and at the end of the ball game, the stampede was too much for the LSU Tigers. Then, oh my gosh, there was a promise of 200 yards early in the day, but somebody at Notre Dame wrote a check that they couldn't cash, and they came out with insufficient funds, and the Florida State Seminoles blew them boys out 31-0. It was a crazy ball game. You just kept waiting for the run game of Notre Dame to take over, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't get involved. Michigan came back after their big win the week before, won 28-24 over Indiana. Miami, doing Miami things, went out and won 42-17. Again, another week where Miami is just out there mashing people, running the ball. This might be the old Big Ten, the way I'm watching these teams play, because everybody right now is putting the focus on the run game. Now, they run it differently. Some teams run it out of spread. Some teams run it out of eye. Some run it out of wishbone. But the run game is very prevalent in this league right now. And it's an amazing thing if you watch it. Then, of course, as I told you guys, every 48 hours. So we advanced the league to week 12. And in week 12, we had some slobber knockers here as well. Utah versus Colorado. Colorado, if I can just get Colorado's coach to give me some time management, I think they might be in some more ball games. But their run game kept them in it. And they battled, but Utah won 10-7. And I think if there were bookies on this game, Colorado covered. Colorado would have covered whatever the spread was. Because no way you'd have had Colorado as a 3 or under 3-point underdog in this ball game. So they responded, they played well, but Colorado is one of those teams where I said teams are starting to find their identity. Colorado is one of those teams. And if the AD has patience with the coach in Colorado, next year might be the year they make that leap or they make a jump into something bigger. Here we go. Oregon, Wisconsin, another great ball game early. It was back and forth, but then at the end of it, Oregon just pulled away. Oregon is starting to, again, they're another team that's creating an identity. They've always had the same identity, but I think they started slow, and now they're starting to get the fruits of their labor as they go on. Texas blew out, well, they didn't blow out. They beat Arkansas 31-24. Another game that I thought was going to be crazier was Alabama and the FCS Southeast. I guess at some point, Dario turned to FCS Southeast and said, "Am I not merciful?" Because he only put up 51 points. I thought he would put up 60. I thought he would put up 70. But unfortunately, all he did was put up 51. And everybody in the league was shocked that he only put up 51. The following week, we saw Notre Dame respond to that loss to FSU. They beat UVA 62-24. And this is where Notre Dame started to fall in love with Love. I don't know if Love pulled the coach to the side and said, "I'll play you for your heart." But all of a sudden, Love was the feature, and Love was the meaning in the center of this whole thing called the Notre Dame running game. The following game after that was the Rutgers-Maryland game, which was a classic. They gave you everything. 2-minute drives, ball game late, game on the line. And Edwards responded. Edwards shined in the moments that he had to shine. And it was great to see this because I think there was something Maryland needed. Maryland's been right there. Maryland may be a team that if they've won 7 games, they should have won 8, maybe 9. But they're 1 or 2 ball games away from being better than what they should be, what they are. And they've just left some things on the table. And that pretty much closes out week 12 for us. KG, are we doing week 13 or are we going to hold off on that? All right, we're going to do week 13. All right, so week 13,
we don't have a score.
All right, so go ahead. Give me that Arizona.
That was 17-10, Arizona.
Okay, so Ross is the king of heartbreaks. Um, I guess if he was New Edition, it'd be a Heartbreak Hotel. Uh, Colorado came out with a very impressive win against Kansas, 28-14. Notre Dame, I guess they thought they were living in the aggregate, and they gave Army some life, but an Army fought them hard. But 28-22 for Notre Dame over Army. And again, Mr. Love made himself known, made you actually identify and accept love in your life. Texas beats Kentucky because we all grew up with that great SEC matchup of Texas and Kentucky. I remember sitting beside my dad with the old black and white TV and watching this classic. And if you don't understand, folks, that's pure sarcasm. Um, Wake Forest goes into Miami and loses 28-14. And again, Miami does what they do. But I think instead of calling this the Sideline Junkies 2024 College Football 25 League, I think we got called the Black and Blue because these teams are out here hitting. They're physical when it comes to tackling. They're physical in the run game. I don't know what's going on, but I like what I see. I like that these teams are finding out what they do best and they're operating in what they do best. And now we got a little thing because we're talking about run games. We're talking about 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We got to go back to what my man, what's the dude's name? Morrison? Is that his name? I forgot who it was that sung the song.
Mark Morrison.
But it was a song called Return of the Mac. Well, in this league, we're going to call it Return of the Back. And if you look at the Heisman settings for this league, you see that there are 3 teams at the top of this list in this league. Donovan Edwards from Michigan. Is that Ruben Bain from Miami? And then Keanu Cole from Alabama. And these 3 backs have been putting on the show all season long. And I think if we had an option to redo this season, you would see 5 teams from this league in the top 5 of this Heisman race because the running backs are starting to take over. And I apologize, that's the linebacker from Alabama. I thought it was the running back. So this is crazy. And that's the left end? Oh, my gosh. My bad, KG. You should have told me. I thought we had all running backs at the top. But we
did.
Huh?
2 weeks ago, we had all running backs at the top. It was 3 running backs at the top.
And I thought it was going to be the same way. But it looks like we got the left end from Miami, the sophomore, who's been the sack machine. And then we got the Alabama outside linebacker. I apologize. I was so into this that I just knew it was the running backs from both of those schools. But no, we got the defensive players represent. This is even better than I thought. But the running backs in this league have been going crazy. KG, you have what's his name? It's Julian Love, right?
Jeremiah Love.
Jeremiah Love. And Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Was a good friend of mine. But I know the last 2 weeks he's been over 200 yards rushing. We have the running back from Colorado. He's been at about 180 the last couple weeks. Alabama just loves running the football. I get worried about Alabama because their top 2 running backs run the ball a lot. And I just wonder, when they get up big, why don't you go to the secondary backs and let those young guys get some carries? And that way you don't have to worry about guys transferring. And I actually think about that with a lot of teams in the league. Like, why not get some of your younger backs involved? But yeah, so here we are. We got 3 users in the top part of the Heisman vote. And now that we're talking about the Heisman vote, let's see where our users are in the playoff race. So right now, Michigan, Alabama are undefeated. Miami's 10-1, Texas 8-3, Oregon's 8-3, Notre Dame's 8-3, FSU 6-4, Maryland 6-4, TCU 4-6, Colorado 4-7. And as we apply that to the college playoff series, as you can see right now, we have players in the league. We have Michigan at 2, Alabama at 1, and Miami at 4, all with buys right now. And if this holds form after the season is over, we'll have our league representing three of the top four spots in the playoff system. KG, does the guy Clemson still play in the league, or is he out?
No, he's out.
All right, so we have Texas also. So we have four teams in the top 12 right now as we speak, and that could change as this plays out because I don't see why Notre Dame isn't here. I know there's some provisions for them getting a bye, but I think if Notre Dame finishes out strong, depending on who they play the rest of the way, them or Oregon could get into this playoff picture. What you think, KG?
Well, Notre Dame has USC in week 14. Battle for the Jewel Shillelagh.
Here we go.
I don't see Notre Dame jumping up from 21 to 12, or I don't see them being in this playoff at all. Now,
Okay.
Boise State, Utah, it's a couple of strong teams. I mean, if they made it on name alone, yeah. But got to have a strong showing against USC. But USC is not a strong team at this present point. I think USC is sitting at 4-7.
Yeah. So, right, if this is the real world, Lincoln Riley would be in trouble because they probably be talking about him being on the hot seat. But the team that surprises me, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State has found this happy median where they're always like right around there, and in real life, they just can't win that one important ball game to get them into the stratosphere where they belong. And a couple years ago, I know they had a great game against actually Notre Dame in real life, where it was like 38-35 or something like that, where they made a credible comeback and won that bowl game. But that's a team. Like, I think if I was picking a team, them, Tennessee, and Utah would be three teams that I would think about if I was going to be an owner or a user in a league. I think those would be three of the teams that I would touch because they keep decent quarterbacks, they have a great scheme, and they always keep a running game. And from just watching you guys, I think run game is the key. KG, I'm at my clock. We at the 2-minute warning. Let's close this thing out, baby. Let's go ahead and you can put the 2 screen up. You can, yeah, there we go. So now that we've gone through kind of just a recap of the week, we got you guys updated. Just final thoughts. We don't have to worry about taking a knee or anything like that in this segment. We're just going to finish out strong. And if we got any thoughts, KG, if you got anything, please let me know because, I may have missed something that you wanted to highlight.
Well, one of the things I got to highlight is the recent play of Colorado.
Yes.
That change in offense, not relying on the slants as much. I also have to, I got to say this because this is not being said enough. TCU, we need to talk about recruits next week. I'm going to have to show some recruits and some recruiting classes because TCU has a 5-star defensive tackle committed. And if I'm not mistaken, he was the number 1 recruit in the country, ranked number 1 in the country. And he has committed to TCU. That's kind of scary if you want to be serious about it because you look over these recruits and, it's a lot of good guys. I'm sorry, he was the number 2 player in the country. Defensive tackle named Juan Talib from Louisiana, Youngsville, Louisiana. And he's coming out of high school, 6'2", 303, speed rusher. That's a steal right there. That TCU picked him up, and that's a steal. If the ball bounced a different way for TCU in a few games, we'd be talking about a totally different season. But
dude, I said this last week. I was like, he's the captain of bad luck and bad spells. And the way the game is set up, once you get momentum on your side, it's hard to break momentum. And I think if there's anybody that's been on the wrong side of momentum, it's been the TCU Horned Frogs.
That is true.
Yeah.
The resilience of Alabama.
Yes.
Alabama could have lost that game against LSU in double overtime.
Yep.
But the resilience to stick with it and move on and come out with the W, that right there. The way Michigan has been consistent, the way Oregon has bounced back and found its legs.
I really thought Oregon was losing to Maryland. Like if I probably would have done I would have been the Matt Catlin curse on Maryland that week, because I would have talked about them putting that game in the win column. I was already like counting it, and then the comeback shocked me. And I thought they had it in hand, and little did I know that the comeback was on.
Now, sticking closer to home for myself,
Right.
I hope to go into the LA Coliseum, come out with a victory. As of right now, looking at the bowl projections, my Notre Dame Fighting Irish are not in a bowl, and I feel disrespected. And that's where the 200-yard guarantee came from. It wasn't anything against Florida State. It was more being disrespected by bowl projections.
Understood.
And not being in a bowl at the time, being 6-2, and it's teams that are under 500 that are in bowls, and I'm like, okay, I'm not even getting an invite here.
Totally agree, man.
So that's why coming out against Florida State, the 200-yard prediction was there. Shot my mouth off, not mad about it. Came back the next week, and I've been playing with anger ever since. That's why Virginia got 62 points. Jeremiah Love had 301 yards rushing, 242 against Army. So that's 500 yards in the last 543 yards in the last two games. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. It's just a lot of anger and frustration right now, because advance is tonight. So very well by next week, my season could be over. I could be just looking at recruiting for the rest of the season. My season could possibly be over.
Hey, let's put a pin in that and let's talk about that soon next week. I see that the Terps have a big game coming up against Iowa. If it's at Iowa, that's going to be a tough road to hold, because Iowa is one of those places where you go and it's like Iowa and Purdue. I don't know what it is, and no matter what their talent they have, they always are tough in their building. So that's going to be a tough one. So hopefully, boss man, you got to bring your boys. Y'all got to knuckle up, and hopefully Edwards gets you through it. Edwards and Hembley. Oh, it's in College Park. That's better. If it's in College Park, then I'm happy for you. I hope it's not in Iowa. But let's close this out, because looks like he's got Penn State after that. I'm trying not to go over 25 minutes. We got some games coming up. Again, like I told folks, hey, I'm the Midnight Rider. This is the Gridiron. Again, this is based on our Sideline Junkies 2024 league for college football 25. If you want the smoke, come get the smoke. All right, we got the cigars. All you got to do is bring the lighter, baby. And for that, I'll say thank you for everybody that has participated. Thank you for everybody that's contributed. Thank you to my producer, the big guy, KG. Can't do this without you. Thank you to the guys that participate in the league, because you guys just producing the leagues on the YouTube helps us have content for what we do on Saturday mornings. And good luck to all you teams. Hopefully you guys get through the playoffs and make it happen. So probably next week we'll have probably the playoffs either played, or we'll be beginning the playoffs. So we'll try to feature as much as we can next week. Look forward to you guys jumping in. As my boy Lee Ice said, thank you to those that watch, and for those of you that will watch. But this is the Gridiron, and we're going to go ahead and let the post game begin. Thank you. Have a great day.